Tough topic. Um, so the tough topic is porn, and I wish it wasn't that big a deal. I wish it wasn't as pervasive as it is. Um, and as you can see, I've just washed the hair and letting it dry, and I've got like 3 different colors because we're letting it go natural. So exciting. Anyway, I have no idea what it's going to look like, but I have so much to talk about on this, and it's not easy, but it is absolutely necessary. Um, I just pray that God would guide my words, because um, this is not to be something where I'm pouring on the guilt, the shame, the blame, because how many of us really planned the first time we were exposed to pornography, or whether it's on a magazine or an image on the screen. As I said yesterday, it was so different when I was a kid, because you had to seek this stuff out. You had to really go look for it, and you kind of had to walk through probably some guilt or shame, especially if you wanted to go buy it as an adult, but it wasn't even available to you as a child to go buy it. But usually it would be available through the older brother, something you find from, your father has a stash somewhere. I mean, I've heard so many stories from so many kids about where they were first introduced. And the general things, there's even a wonderful pastor who struggled with this for years. And I mean, clearly one of the kindest, sweetest, most others-oriented person, and he struggled with this issue. And he said, the first time I ever saw pornography, I was out with some friends of mine. We were just little boys, probably 7 or 8 years old, and, in the woods, and literally they came upon this tree stump, and somebody had put some, naughty magazines down in the tree, and they found them. And he said, I wasn't prepared in any stretch of the imagination. None of this kind of stuff was in my home, but it just scarred my heart so much, and I felt so much guilt, so much shame, and yet, how can I explain that I enjoyed it? How do you get past that? Even got a message from a wonderful young lady yesterday who, once again, was introduced to porn. No one even knew. I mean, she walked in and somebody was watching it when she was just a child, but she said it set her up for sort of this twisted view of sex, because when you're not talking about the act of sex within commitment and trust, and I'm going to be there for you from here on out, and exclusivity, when you're just making it an act, it's just a physical thing, it still affects you mentally and spiritually. And that, there's a book in the Bible that to so many people is so mysterious, but it's called the Song of Solomon, the Song of Songs. And he's talking a lot in very, flowery language about sex with, his wife, and Solomon had many. So, that's a whole other topic. But one of the comments is, do not awaken love before it's time. And I think that applies so clearly to sex. Unfortunately, we are in a society that, unless we walk around with blinders and, earmuffs, and try so hard to avoid any sense of reality, these things can slap us in the face, no matter how our parents try to keep it out of the house, no matter, how careful even we try to be, even if we choose at a very young age, I'm all about God. These images are just like, you turn a corner and bam, smacks you in the face. And this one young lady I was talking to, she said, one of the things about being abused as a child that she felt so horrible about at the time was that her body responded, even though she was so young. And even though this person was older and manipulative, and she said, I can look back and know that I shouldn't have any guilt or shame. And finally, therapy kind of brought out that a lot of that guilt and shame was, but my body responded. I felt like my body betrayed me. So we can know in our heads, I don't want to look at porn, or we can even try to explain, it's just bodies, whatever. If you don't understand that it's just bodies and it's just a physical act, then you're just some kind of prude or whatever. No matter how we try to explain it, it takes us down a road that may not have even been intended. I know the pain of talking to a young person who is feeling that shame and that guilt and self-loathing of, I saw these images, I felt gross, and yet I can't get them out of my head now. It's like every time I close my eyes, those that's there. Or I was kind of fascinated, so I went and looked up more because this was just such a mystery to me. So I feel, parents, please hear me just real quick. It's so important that we try in an age-appropriate way to forewarn and forearm our children, the young people you may mentor, the teens or younger that you're around, that we forewarn and forearm so that this stuff, they're at least prepared. The whole wise as serpents, innocent as doves thing, they're at least prepared, and it's not just a complete mystery, and they have no idea why they're feeling the way they're feeling, why their bodies are reacting the way they are. This doesn't need to be a thing of shame and guilt and self-loathing that just tightens that noose around our neck and, makes it that much harder to break free from that prison. So, another quote just from Great Love for Life. That's what this is all about. And this, honestly, is why I wrote this book, to help forewarn and forearm young people, and to even prepare those who are just trying to set a foundation or regain a solid foundation for a future good relationship, or even you've gone through the pain. There's healing. There is a place where you can go, I'm starting here and I'm turning toward God, and I'm giving him the shame, the guilt, the self-loathing, because we've all been through stuff, and you can't live in this world without getting hit by the stuff. It's like you're in a mud-flinging world and it's going to hit you, but how do we rebond with God in a holy way? How do we get free of that shame and that pain? So from Great Love for Life, just a portion of a chapter, again, we have an enemy that understands all too well the importance of foundations. He also understands the strength a husband and wife can find in their exclusive, holy act of lovemaking. Satan's constant desire is to erode our concept of sex. He desires as early as possible to inject shame, to kill our self-worth, and infect us on an emotional level. So we either A, cannot find fulfillment with our mate, or B, are repulsed by this act that from our first sexual experience brought only deep pain and shame. There's an author, Jonathan Welton, who was a minister, husband, and father who had a secret porn addiction. When he sought help, he felt labeled as a sex addict who would always be an addict fighting powerful sexual appetites. This didn't ring true for him, for Jonathan, because he knew the Bible and he knew God well enough to know this was not God's best, and that God's healing could bring true transformation to enable him to live free of porn's seductive pull. So if you or someone you know struggles with pornographic addiction, or addiction of any kind for that matter, I highly recommend Jonathan Welton's book, Eyes of Honor, which offers a clear path of escape out of self-destructive cycles. I'm also going to give some more resources. That of course was an excerpt from Great Love for Life, my book that's available on Apple and Amazon. I'm also going to recommend the resource of Karen Kropp of positivelywaiting.com. She's the one that I was talking about. She has such a great presentation, live presentation, and she has a wonderful website as well, positivelywaiting.com. And she's the one who talked about the ducklings who will imprint on whoever, whatever they first lay eyes on. Like if you see a trail of ducklings following a dog, it's because when they were hatched, that's the first being they saw, and they went, "Mommy." In the same way, we get imprinted by our first experiences of sex. And guys, especially you know, women and men, we're equal, but we are different. There are different ways that you respond to that. When a woman has a sexual experience with a man, generally the oxytocin flows. She is bonding to that person, and she may start seeing Mr. Wonderful when actually he's, you know, a self-absorbed jerk. A guy, on the other hand, is imprinting on that experience. Not so much necessarily the person, but the way he got to that sexual release. And that's something Karen covers very clearly in her book. She has a book for parents and a book for young people, how to not end up with a loser. It's very, very good. So Eyes of Honor and positively-waiting.com. Also, there's a great interview I did with producer Angela Renee that you need to check out. I will put the link for that YouTube video. And on YouTube, I will, you know, put that on there as a link, where she is talking about how porn shaped her mind and her concept of sex so early, with the shame, the guilt, and the self-loathing, and how she has moved on, you know, with therapy and godly healing prayer to an understanding and a better way to share with her own children how to deal with this powerful topic. So thank you so much for your time. Father, I just pray that what has been shared here would reach open hearts, open minds. Lord, that discussions could be started, that parents would help forewarn and forearm those wonderful young people. Lord, that we would find creative, age-appropriate ways to forewarn and forearm. Help us, Lord, to find those connections with you that will break that shame, that guilt, that self-loathing, those bondage things off of us, that we can then in turn show others a way toward freedom. Much love. Have an amazing day. I'd love to hear your comments, your response. Thanks for your time.
This one didn't start yet. Today we are doing more on kind of a tough topic.